Well, that is an interesting scenario because, first of all, people will start dying en masse because you can just imagine the chaos that will ensue. And I think we've seen quite a few Hollywood movies that show that in spectacular anticipation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
But let's step away from that and be slightly more practical about this and say, well, if we can learn from the ancients and realize that energy is actually frequency, or frequency is energy, is a source of energy. If we start to learn how to use that, we could actually apply this in a post-apocalyptic or cataclysmic event on planet Earth today. And we don't have to go back to the society and the structure that we embrace today. And that society and structure is based on money and the capitalist system. Now, many people believe that capitalism and money is something that evolved naturally into where we are today. Well, they'd be wrong. That is not the case. And whatever stories you've been told about how, barter and trade, and you had to earn these promissory notes, and then these guys had to, and that's how money evolved, that's all nonsense. It's all rubbish. It's all the disinformation. Money was maliciously and specifically introduced as a tool of enslavement at a specific point in time by the kings and the priests, and introduced into the human race as a tool of control and oppression, slavery.
Right.
And for those that have watched this wonderful Zeitgeist series, those guys put it very beautifully. That once you don't, when you enslave people physically, you have to give them housing, food, and shelter. If you enslave people through the monetary or the financial system, they have to house themselves, feed themselves, and clothe themselves.
Right.
And then they have to still work for you to earn that money. It's a beautiful system. It's so beautifully crafted.
Yep.
So how do we relieve ourselves from this slavery and this oppression? You got to remove money from the system.
Right.
And when you say that to some people, that sends shivers up their spine. But I've been studying this for the last 5 years, virtually very soon after I released Slave Species of God, my first book in 2005. And I can tell you that what I call contributionism, or a new social structure on Earth that works without money, without the concept of barter or trade, you've got to eliminate that. Because he who has more to sell will eventually take control and rule the roost.
Right.
Without the concept of value being attached to items and things that people do. Once you start embracing that and looking at that kind of structure, where people do what they do best, what is their God-given talents, or what they choose to really, to hone their craft and hone their talents. Once people do that and contribute their ability to the best of their ability for the greater benefit of the entire community, and if everybody does that, you will be absolutely blown away by what happens. And it's not easy it's not something that's easily understandable by many people in a capitalistic structure.
Right.
Because we are completely and utterly brainwashed by capitalism and what's in it for me and how's this going to work and how could this possibly work without money.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And yet the answers are so simple and so beautiful and so smooth. And what I can tell you, and because you said we're running out of time, so what I can tell you is that the abundance of everything is so spectacular. And I mean abundance. And contributionism doesn't mean we're going to go back and live in caves. In fact, it's completely the opposite. It releases the ability for scientists to make great discoveries, for free energy, for amazing new advanced technology in agriculture, in the building of cities, and all the things that you could possibly imagine. So much so that the abundance is so spectacular that people probably only have to work like 2 or 3 hours a day in whatever it is they choose to do, which they love to do. So imagine the whole world waking up every day, singing and whistling and being happy because they're going to do what it is they love to do, and not being miserable and unhappy and cheesed off because they hate their job, they hate their boss, they hate their life, and they have to go and do this miserable job because they need to earn money so they can buy bread and pay rent at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I'm with you on that, and it's a piece that I spend a lot of time with myself. And one of the things that I came up with a long time ago is right now, as I speak to you and you speak to me, there are literally millions of dollars passing through us at any given point in time. I mean, we are being interpenetrated by zeros and ones that are flying around the world. And when you think about economy on that level, it becomes fairly abstract, and at the same time, it also becomes very simple. And what we're dealing with is really what I call the economy of light, or the invisible economy, and this whole idea of zeros and ones flooding through us, going from San Francisco to Japan or back again, is really kind of a very subtle physical manifestation of what I think you might be talking about. And that is this whole concept of being able to free up our own personal energy so that we can contribute to something. And as a result, there's something that takes place. There's an interchange that takes place with this. And we don't understand it enough, because we have been inbred to have 3,000 years worth of indentured servitude, and our capacity to grasp these concepts are stunted. But I'll tell you, and I bet you get it, there are people that are up in the upper 0.5% that understand this perfectly.
Absolutely. There's some people that, when I introduce the concept of contributionism to them, they get it instantly. Some people sort of think they get it, and some people just can't get it. They can't understand how you could possibly imagine you could survive in a world without money. They just don't understand it. And those are the people that you need to slowly nurture into it. But just to add to what you're saying is, I believe that the first 270,000 years on planet Earth, in those colonies in southern Africa, those mining colonies, were pretty much contributionist societies. There was no money.
Yeah.
Everything was happening, and they were doing everything so that everybody could survive and have an abundance on everything, so they could mine the stuff that was so desperately needed.
Right.
If they weren't supported in abundance, then you can imagine that mining activity would have collapsed very quickly.
Yeah. No,
I believe we coming back. So when I said we completing some sort of a strange ancient prophecy, I believe that is part of that prophecy, and we're probably going to tap into that basic fundamental contributionist structure that we had a long, long time ago, and bring it back into our new modern day structure, but with subtle adaptations based on our current levels of consciousness and knowledge. And it's consciousness that becomes the key word here, consciousness and spirituality. You cannot have contributionism without consciousness and spirituality, because ultimately everything comes from unity.
Okay.
The universe and all things in it could not exist unless it came from unity. And we don't really have time to explain that, but and within unity, some people might think, oh, it's boring, everything's going to be the same, everyone's going to be the same and doing the same. That is not the case. It is only within unity that you have infinite diversity. And these are very important and very basic, simple things that people need to start to embrace and just think about it until it starts to make sense to you, because that really is the essence of it. And contributionism is exactly that same thing, where you have unity within societies and structures, where you have absolute unity but infinite diversity of the people that are part and parcel of that society, that contribute to the greater benefit of all.
Right. Well, this is something I'd love to talk more with you about, and perhaps we can catch up with you later on in your tour and have part 2 of this conversation if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely, Robert. I love talking to you. It's lovely. You seem to be a really clued up guy, and it's lovely. I love talking to people that know this subject and are clearly consciously and spiritually connected. So it's great chatting to you, and let's do it again before I leave the United States.
That sounds great. So let's give people your website, Michael. It's is it slavespecies.com? Is that what it is?
That's it. My main website is slavespecies.com. They can also check out adamscalendar.com, and also the website for our foundation that I'm really trying to raise funds for, the research that we're doing and the archaeological digs that we plan to do, which is makomati.org, and that Makomati is MAKOMATI.org.
Great. and then people can go onto your main website and find out where you're going to be appearing and see you in person and then ask you questions and buy materials and books and all that stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah, look, I'm like a traveling salesman at the moment in the United States. We take books with us and we have them available at the presentations, at the talks. So if you can't find them at a bookstore near you, you can come and get them at the presentation when I'm in town.
That's great. Okay, well, get yourself a good night's rest and have a terrific presentation tomorrow in the Phoenix area. And we'll catch up with you sometime later in your tour. Okay, Michael?
Robert, thanks very much. Lovely talking to you, and talk to you soon again.
Take good care now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there we go. That was Michael Tellinger, and we just spent the last hour kind of skimming the surface in a lot of ways with his material. I mean, I'm sure we could have gone another 60 minutes and gone even deeper, and I'm looking forward to having him back on because I definitely want to dive into his research a lot more, and he's going to be in my neck of the woods in a couple of weeks. He's going to be up here in Oakland, California, which is not far from where I'm living, and hope to see him in person and then take our dialogue to another level. So Michael Tellinger, you can catch him on tour. You can see him on his website or find out where he's going to be on tour on his website, slavespecies.com, and get into the prehistory, the genetic disposition, the alien genetic disposition of the human and the human on Earth. You ever think about the name Earth? You ever really pondered the name Earth? Well, if you break Earth down, it essentially breaks down into two parts of the word. The first part is Ea, and then the last part is Earth, the RTH. Ea is another name for Enki. It's another name for Enki, Enki Ea. And so Earth is really the place of Ea. That's what it means. It's like the hearth of Ea, the house. It is the house of Ea, which is the house of Enki. So all you have to do is go right into the nomenclature, the etymology of our world, this Earth. You may want to shift it to Terra, if we want to claim it. If we want our own Earth, we want our own world, if we don't want to be a slave species anymore, I think Terra would be a nice choice. Certainly better than hell. I take Terra over hell, although a lot of people would say that that's where we are. I'm going to play just a little brief piece of music here. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to talk about some other things since I've got about 48 minutes left. I may not go the full 2 hours, but I just whipped up this little piece of music